You're listening to the Bold Dreams Held Loosely podcast with me, Taryn Watts, and my dear friend and colleague, Michelle Theriault. At the Mind Rebel Academy, we offer ICF-accredited coach training, leadership development, and personal growth programs. We provide the tools, training, and environment to help you create a life rich in depth, impact, and meaning. This podcast is where Michelle and I dive into raw, honest, and deeply human conversations that expand our minds, open us to new possibilities, and inspire us to walk our most authentic paths. Our hope is that they'll do the same for you. So get cozy, settle in with us, and as always, take what resonates and gently leave the rest. Enjoy the conversation. So Michelle, you've been inside of a lot of emotions for the last couple days. And we thought we would bring that here. We thought we would talk it out. And you want to start by kind of describing your emotional state in the last couple days, and then we can kind of dive into the nitty-gritties of things.
Something happened a couple days ago, almost like a dam burst, a dam of emotions burst for me. And I just started crying and I couldn't stop for days, for nights. It's just as soon as that dam broke, my emotions started flowing out in a way I didn't really have control over. Not that I ever want to tightly control my emotions, or not that I thought I was suppressing my emotions, but the way this dam just burst made me realize there was like a building of something that I must have been sort of tamping down. And once I crossed that tipping point and the floodgates opened and I started crying, so it felt like sadness for a while, crying. But then other emotions started coming to the surface, and because it's all been so strong, it felt futile to attempt to put it aside and keep going towards anything else. So I've really just been sitting in a consistent flowing swirl of intense emotions that have been pointing me to a deeper truth that I think has been trying to come through for a while now. And it's very uncomfortable, I must say. It's a very uncomfortable place to be. I'm really happy to talk about this with you. I feel so grateful that you are here and this space is here and that you said we could talk about this. I feel this like deep sense of gratitude of, oh, wow, this is so nourishing. And at the same time as I feel that, I feel such a sense of anxiousness in my chest, in my stomach, this fear that I notice comes along with new truths that are emerging or new things I'm stepping into or things that I want, like regardless of what it is. I notice that when new things like this are emerging through me, it often comes with so much fear and so much uncertainty. And at the same time as I know what to do, I equally don't know what to do. That is where I am. That is my current state at this moment.
This is our first podcast episode in a long time. We took a little break because we were in creation mode in so many different areas of the MRA. And so we paused our podcast for a long time. And so leading up to this, we were having a conversation between ourselves. What do we want to talk about? Like, it's the first podcast. What do we want to talk about? And it seemed silly to even consider talking about anything else other than like what's truly up for either of us. And this is what's truly up for you. And I'm so fully here for it. And I also just want to name that not only is this vulnerable to meet inside of yourself and like to feel for yourself, but it's also vulnerable to share all of this, you know?
Yeah, I do know. But it's funny. I think it's strange that I think maybe the most vulnerability comes from even acknowledging it, seeing it, and expressing it in myself. It's funny how that part is almost the biggest hurdle. And as soon as I was willing to feel what was really there, see what was really there, as soon as I was able to push through the fear and the vulnerability to that point, it still feels vulnerable. Like the moments when I first started expressing to you felt vulnerable. The thought of, we're going to record this and share this, that feels vulnerable, but almost in a way where, well, I've already started sliding down this mountain. Things are in motion. It's almost less scary to expose myself to you and to whoever listens to our podcast. Most of those people know us, love us anyway. And so there's still vulnerability there, but the tenderest, scariest moment was really fully seeing it, feeling it myself.
It's funny, as you're talking, I can feel this feeling in my body, and it's my guard stepping forward. I can feel her. I can feel Brienne of Tarth stepping. That's the name of my guard. And for anyone who's seen Game of Thrones, she is like a fierce, like protector. And the reason she's stepping forward right now is because when we're in the sacredness of a coaching conversation, and my job is to hold that space, it's like nothing is going to penetrate this bubble. Like everything you say is held in such reverence and confidentiality. And like, I take that very seriously. And I can feel my guard stepping forward because I know that this is going to be shared. And I want to like protect this bubble for you. And I want to say to anyone who's listening to this, if you feel the slightest judgment or projection or any negative emotion listening, leave, like go away. Like don't listen to this. This is not for your ears. Like the reason we're sharing this is for your own self-expression and for those people who this is going to serve. And this is also going to help indirectly by simply listening to it. So I just had to say that because Brienne of Tarth was like, she was getting a little, now that it's been said, she can just like chill and relax now.
I appreciate her so much on so many different levels and so many different moments, and I appreciate that. I also feel a strange trust that when I'm expressing what's really true in the purest way, and I know that and I feel it in myself, that sense of the purity of my expression is almost like a tonic against judgment anyway. It actually feels that by saying things out loud here with you and knowing that it's not only going to just your ears, it's very easy for me to send things to your ears, but it's also rippling out in a way that it's like, it's on the permanent record. It's on the permanent record of the world. I think it almost gives me a sense of extra strength to stand with myself that I'm really yearning for right now. I really feel like I'm yearning for a sense of safety or yearning for backup, maybe even my own backup, like not having my backup, but like having my own back. And I think letting my words come out and be heard and seen, strangely, instead of making me feel more vulnerable, maybe even makes me feel steadier on my own feet. That's what it seems to me right now. And I really hope that by the end of this conversation, that is how I feel and not the opposite. But there's this strange sense of, it's like vulnerable to step through the door, but I can also sense that that's the path to actually more internal strength for me.
Okay, let's dive in. Where do we begin?
First, I want to say, by the way we're framing this, it almost seems like I'm about to drop some like earth-shattering personal secrets, which I'm not about to do, actually. I'm not about to share the really intimate little details of the thing I'm inside of. But I would really like to talk about the experience of it, because it's not the particular details of the content and the situations and the exact people that's really important. I think I'm moving through an experience that everyone or many people or most people move through, and the content is different, but the heart of moving through like a challenging emotional experience where your truth and desires and realities are coming up, and it feels scary to face and scary to express about. And there's fear around the impacts of my truth and my words. That happens in so many contexts, in so many ways, with so many people, in so many circumstances. And that's the piece I think that would feel really good to talk about, because once I saw the truth inside me, once I saw the feelings, the true yearnings, the true pains, the true aches, I see them. They're clear. There's no changing them. I know the path forward is honoring them and expressing them. And I'm at this point where I'm looking forward and feeling the fear of doing that. And like I said earlier, part of me knows exactly how to do that. And another part of me feels so scared. This conversation is almost like holding my hand at like looking at the path forward. Like, how do I do that? How do I get clear? How do I express this properly? How do I honor myself? How do I honor the other people in my life this impacts? How do I know what's really true versus partly true? You know, what does my rebel want to say versus what does my guard want to say versus what does my authentic self want to say? How do I say it? When do I say it? Where do I say it? I guess that's the stepping off point for me right now.
If we just zoom out for a minute, you said something, I think it was earlier today outside of this podcast, but you said that you were reflecting on in your journal for the last year that you've been writing in this journal. And what you noticed was that this like underlying thing was actually there all along. And it's not that you weren't looking at it. It's not that you were leaning into it. You were feeling it. You were looking at it. And all of a sudden, or what feels like all of a sudden, this thing is now fully emerged from the surface. There's no shoving it back down under the surface. It's like fully emerged. And something about that process that you described felt important to also talk about, that our healing process, you know, our next iterations of growth have their own timeline or have their own like process of like natural unfolding. Again, it's not like this is something you weren't looking at or it's something you dug your head in the sand. It's something that like surfaced, you felt, and then it was okay, and then surfaced, and then it was okay. And then until it was just like ready, until the universe and life aligned around you, where it was like, Michelle, you are now ready for this healing to occur. You are now ready to fully look at this thing. I think that's fascinating.
I love the process of name it, feel it, shift it. I love it. It works so well for me. Most people listening to this will know it. And I recently really love the meditation you did, because I get to, if anyone doesn't know this exists, Taryn has done a meditation.
I will put it in the show notes so that people can experience it.
Yeah. Now that I have access to that, the number of times I've set up my computer, laid back, and allowed you to walk me through the process of name it, feel it, shift it. Oh, I love it. And I love the relief on the other side. So I love the feeling of fully seeing and naming and feeling what's there fully until you go, the relief, the shift on the other side where you're back in your authentic self and you can feel that sense of lightness and freedom of what alignment feels like. I love that. And so many times over the past, let's say year, really intensely for the past year, there's been these things coming up as irritations, frustrations, angers, you know, these feelings. And every time I've tried to take myself through name it, feel it, shift it, or let you take me through it in the meditation or journaled about it, there were so many times where I very earnestly said to myself, said to the universe, I'm willing to feel it all. I'm willing to face it all. Show me what's under this. I'm willing to see what's under this, what's under this, what's under this. And I couldn't get to it for a year. I knew I was circling around it. I knew I was touching some of the words. I knew I was touching some of the themes. But it's been a constant digging. But what I see now is that I almost thought, I guess I'm not digging hard enough. I guess I'm not digging deep enough. But I could not have been digging harder or deeper. And it felt almost like divine timing that finally allowed it all to come into focus and come to the surface. There was circumstances I didn't know that I needed to to help me understand what was in there. And yes, it's taken so much time. And it didn't take a long time because I wasn't willing to face it. It didn't take a long time because I wasn't feeling my feelings. It didn't take a long time because I wasn't searching. There's been something that feels, I don't want to say out of my hands, but maybe connected to some greater natural process inside of me or in the universe that I had to flow with. It's been a very frustrating process. And as intense and uncomfortable as these intense emotions are, there's also this sense of relief of, oh, finally it's coming to a head. Finally.
I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm selfishly going through all sorts of scenarios and past healing, experiences that I've had where like I can so fully relate to what you're saying and I can see it. It's so easy to see when I'm looking at other people and their process. It's much harder to see it when it's your own process. But when the thing is like, the only way I can describe it is like, it's got so many roots. And looking at that, healing it, upheaving it, like bringing it to the light, bringing it to the surface, and then once and for all, changing the pattern, changing the belief, changing whatever it is for you. Sometimes that can happen fast, but I've found that for the really deeply rooted ones, the ones that are just like really sticky and have all sorts of offshoots around it, it takes time. And it's just like layer by layer by layer. And maybe that's the whole beauty of it. Like, maybe that is. But this process can take time. Now, once it is there and fully surfaced, that's when transformation can happen fast. It's more like the undercurrents of getting to that space or to that place that can sometimes take time.
It's funny because I very often think whatever phase I'm in is the hardest phase. And then I get to another phase and I'm like, oh. And so that time that it takes, I think I would have told you over the past year as I've been like trying to pull at the roots, but never able to really satisfy or, fully feel or bring to the surface or see what was there. That felt so hard. And I just so desperately wanted to fully name the core of it, fully pull all the layers back, get to all the roots. I was desperate for it. And I am happy and relieved that I'm finally there. But now this phase feels like the hardest phase. Now I feel so much fear. My legs feel so shaky. Once you see the truth in a way that you cannot turn away from it, I know I have to walk forward. I know there's things I have to express truthfully, clearly. And my legs feel so shaky and it feels so scary and I feel so vulnerable. I know we'll do it. I know I wouldn't have it any other way. You said transformation happens quickly at this point. I can feel that and it feels so scary. Transformation is so vulnerable because you can't fully control transformation. You can choose certain things. You can honor the general directions you want to move, but you can't control the way things transform around you as you transform. I was so briefly messaging with one of our MRA sisters, and she said something, I forget her exact words. They were too beautiful to be able to capture perfectly. She's stepping into a new phase of her life, and she said something along the lines of walking this path is kind of transforming me and it will almost like birth me into a new person at the end of it. And there's always this sense of you can control yourself and you can choose your own steps, but there's so much that you can't control. It's so scary. It's so vulnerable.
So I'm really hearing that there's this new path you're courageously step by step walking down right now with this new insight and these new awarenesses. And I'm hearing that while you have the ability to control yourself and rebirth yourself on this path, what you don't have any control over is how others around you or people, places, circumstances, events around you will respond to that. And so I'm really feeling the tension in that and the vulnerability of taking steps forward on this new path.
Mm-hmm. I vacillate between this extreme impatience to just fully express, blurt out everything that I'm realizing is in here. And it wants to almost erupt out of me in moments. Versus this other part of me that's very much dragging my feet, thinking, as soon as I do, there's no going back. Once true words that I have to stand by are spoken, the comfortable status quo is shattered. So there's absolutely this tension between this force that's building inside that's saying, you must express your truth. And I know there will be relief in that. And this dragging my feet of fear of powerful words change the course of your life. That's the tension. It feels unbearable in this moment in both directions.
Can I put my coaching hat on for
Please.
a moment? I'm going to
Yes.
transition from friend mode, podcast friend mode, and I'm going to sink fully into a coach mode right now. This tension that you're describing, where do you feel that in your body?
I think I feel it in my solar plexus and my heart. I feel it in my solar plexus and my heart. I can feel it moving back and forth between the two. And even in moments when I'm journaling and talking about it, I don't feel it physically as acutely in my throat, but I keep talking about my throat in my journal and my voice. There's this channel here from my solar plexus, my heart, my throat. There's this like wave of energy churning here, moving up and down. And it's almost like the energy here, it's being held in a little bit because I'm trying to purify it, because I understand the power it's going to have as it comes out of me. It's been here, but there's a restriction to it. As much as I'm allowing it to flow inside of me, there's still a sense of restriction to it. So it feels a little bit like a little bit of tightness in my solar plexus, a little bit of achiness or tightness in my heart, a little bit of like a desire to open my throat and express, but also, well, not quite yet. That's what's happening here.
Would you like to sit with those emotions a little bit deeper and do some of the name it, feel it, shift it process and see what comes up?
I'm very nervous, but yes.
Okay. Yeah. As you're talking, I'm even feeling, probably because I'm so deeply connected to you, but I'm feeling the energy, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, and I'm feeling the movement there and the energy there and the constriction there. I'm wondering if it would be helpful to just kind of close down your eyes for a minute and taking a couple breaths here, taking as long as you need. Just orienting your attention, your focus inward towards your body. And I'll guide you through a little body scan to help you orient towards where's the energy sitting right here, right now. So starting at the very root of your spine, ever so slowly at your own pace, bringing your attention upwards towards your belly, your heart, your throat, the space in between your eyes. And in this quiet and in this stillness, see if you can locate where in your body you're feeling the most amount of energy or sensation. And only if it's accessible and physically comfortable, go ahead and place your hands over that area of your body, just to draw a deeper connection to it. And sending your breath to this space. And now asking yourself what feelings or sensations are present here. And feel free to say it out loud or keep it to yourself, totally up to you. Maybe this space has a shape. Maybe it has a color. Maybe it has a texture. And if you can imagine, within this shape lives all sorts of emotions. So just allowing whatever emotions that are here just rise to the surface and give each one a name. Maybe it's one predominant emotion, or maybe it feels more like a soup of emotions. And if so, just letting them rise one by one, and giving each one a name. And as you do this, allow yourself to land on the emotion that most accurately represents what you feel in this moment. And sitting with that. Letting your breath carry you into the feelings. Allowing each breath to invite you deeper. Soften into it. Allow it to be exactly what it is without the need to change, fix, heal, or shift it. Just be with it. And see if there's another layer to this emotion. As if peeling back the petals of a flower. Is there something beneath that? Is there another emotion? A deeper one? Maybe a more vulnerable one that sits beneath this emotion. See if you can give that a name. And sitting with that, perhaps there's another layer to peel back. Is there anything beneath that emotion that wants to be named? Taking your time here, sitting with this for as long as you need. And when you feel like you have named the root, the core, you can join me back in this space. What came up for you?
There's this little dance happening inside. Maybe dance is too pretty of a word. One of the first things that became really clear is my heart saying, "Speak for me." And the feeling behind that is like, there's mixed emotions there. There's some sense of sadness or anger at not being fully honored, but mostly there's an open energy of just like, speak for me, be a stand for me. And then at the thought of doing that down in my solar plexus, there's fear. There's fear at doing that. And the fear comes from, I guess, the fear of unworthiness, which is such an unknown shade of feeling inside of me that I come to over and over and over again. There's still this part of me, no matter how many times I face it. It's funny, I always ended up back here. That's the origin of the fear, is the unworthiness, because that's what the fear is. If I speak for my heart, what if I'm unworthy? What if my heart's desires are unworthy? And then the impact of my unworthy desires, expression, perspectives will just cause the people and world and situations around me, it will just cause harm to them. It will cause disconnection. There's a fear that my expression will create a loss of love, a loss of connection, and that the circumstances will reflect what I'm deep down afraid might be true. And there's another flavor there too that always comes in. And this one might be a little more on the surface, but I very often have this doubt of, what if I'm not seeing things clearly? What if I'm missing something? What if by speaking for my heart, I'm being too selfish, too self-centered, not seeing other people's perspectives, not seeing a bigger picture in a more mature, wise way. And what if me speaking is, yeah, strangely, the word immature keeps coming to me. I think I'm worried my heart is immature and that perhaps I have to be better in some way, but it's all so vague. But I come back around to my heart saying, speak for me. And I know that's the truest peace. I know that's the only path, the only choice. That's where I feel the most love, actually. Sure, there's a part of me that's scared about, the impact on the people around me or somebody else pulling their love away or, a situation, like damaging a situation. But I feel the most love when I think about just like loving myself in that way. I know when my heart feels like this, if I think back over my whole life and think about this feeling has never been wrong, ever, 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 ever. I just feel so tender. It's almost baffling that it could feel so risky to speak for my heart, but it does. And there's no doubt that there's so much internal relief and internal love there when I do.
As you express all of that, what's happening in your body now?
My heart is fluttery. I think the flutters are like my heart vacillating between just like acceptance. And what I notice is that I feel the strongest when my heart is soft, but it's a hard state to stay in when there's fear. And I can feel the like contractions every time my heart senses into the fear. It goes, ooh, and contracts, but then goes, oh, but there's no choice, and softens. And oh, yeah, that's what my heart's doing.
What do you think your heart needs right now to continue to soften?
Right before we started this conversation, I was journaling and I had the thought, maybe I'll speak from my heart on paper first and just like see everything so I can feel everything and assess everything and make sure it's, I don't want to say right, but, like, is this really true? Is this the full truth from my softest heart? That's sort of coming back again. There's a part of me that wishes and sometimes thinks I should just, or I wish I just had the natural body wisdom to allow myself to just express from such a natural place like a child does. Express, it's true, and not worry so much about choosing the perfect words. I hate that energy of my expression has to be right. I don't like that. That feels restrictive. And I wish I could just, in all situations, even when there's fear and intense emotions, I wish I could just have a more immediate expression. I think idealize that in a way where it seems so free and so full. And I love the idea that no part of me would be left unexpressed. I love the wildness of it. And on the other side of the coin, I know from past experience, sometimes when I lean in that direction, it's premature. And, I can feel the negative impacts I make, almost like my words were careless. And I didn't intend them to be, but I think there's so much power in words and expression. And I would really like to feel like I've done everything I could do. Not that I can control the impact. I cannot control the ripples, but I can control the accuracy and purity and truth and vibration and energy of my expression. And I think that's what I'm really yearning for, to feel as if I've done everything I can do. I've gotten all the clarity. I know what's important. I know what's not. Like I said, I really want to be the full truth without softening or suppressing anything, but coming from the softness of my heart and not from my guard. And it's so easy to have my rebel or my guard come forward. That's what my heart really needs right now, is to know I've done that. And so when it's time to step off into expression to other people, into the world, at least if things don't go well, I can stand by myself knowing I might not like the impact, but it was the me I'm most proud of.
The word integrity is coming through loud and clear in your expression, and the importance of self-integrity. in your life.
Yeah. And on my impact on others, especially people I care about. And I think there's been times where I've cared too much about somebody else and neglected myself. And so I don't want to do that. I'd like to release that and fully honor myself, speak for myself, like care for myself, but not so much that I become reckless in a sort of self-indulgent way and not have integrity relating to how I impact others. Because that doesn't feel good either. I've been there many times, tried to navigate the expression of emotions and desires. I know in the past, me doing that has cut people in a way that it's hard to repair when your words are laced with intense emotion and perhaps some perspectives of your guard. You can cut people. And I know I've done that before, and that's very hard to repair. I don't want to unintentionally cut someone because I know I can be sharp. I know I can.
If I may reflect back to you, what I'm hearing you say, you've gotten to a place where you hear your heart loud and clear. Speak for me. It also sounds like you've gotten to a place where there's no going back. There's no shoving that heart's desire down. You know that there is something from this place to express. Your heart is wanting to express something. And the recipient of who you want to express this to matters a great deal to you, or else we wouldn't be having this conversation. And you've experienced both ends of the pendulum in terms of self-expression. On one end of the pendulum, it's completely unexpressed because of, fears of how it's going to impact others, or perhaps like your own unworthiness wrapped into that and shutting you down. And then you've also experienced the very other end of the pendulum, which is full self-expression and just letting it out in an unprocessed, almost unfinished, if I could use your words, perhaps even immature way. And now you're really trying to find the balance in the middle of like the aligned path forward for you that is mature, that is fully processed, and that's speaking from your heart, but in a way that feels soft and true. What comes up for you when I paint that picture back to you?
It feels entirely accurate. It feels like I know I would benefit from some more preparation and just getting clear on my words. And I also know that I won't be able to find the amount of preparation that soothes me as much as I want to be soothed. I almost have this sense of, yes, I will sit down and use my journal to help me get clear and express. But I also know I'm not going to feel quite ready, even once there's nothing else for me to do, nothing else for me to figure out. I have that sense of I'll prepare the most I can prepare. I'll get as clear as I can get. I can maybe even choose my perfect words. And I can sense that I still won't really feel ready. I still will feel scared. I'll still feel the maximum amount of vulnerable. And my guard will be flailing in the background, looking for a way to protect me, but there won't really be a way to protect me. I will just have to lean so far into the tenderness and the vulnerability. And I really, really wish there was something else that could make me feel prepared for that. But for the life of me, I can't think of what else there could possibly be. And I suspect perhaps there's nothing.
When you tune into your heart again, if we were to ask your heart, what more do you need? How would she answer?
Write it all down once clearly, feel through it thoroughly to make sure there's no sharp edges and it's all soft. And I don't mean soft like I'm trying to be nice or I'm suppressing, open, vulnerable. I remember a long time ago, I've heard this many times since, but a long time ago, someone was talking about communicating and expressing, and they were talking about while expressing your anger, can you do it with an open heart? While you're expressing your rage, can you do that in love? And I remember thinking, I can't feel anger and love at the same time. I can't feel rage and love at the same time. And I still can't always, but I have sort of like learned to find that sweet spot a little bit recently. That's what I want, because I think there is a way to communicate the fullness of your sadness, the fullness of your anger, the fullness of your rage, but still feel that it's in the energy of your heart is actually open and it's in the energy of love. And so that's what I want. So write it all, feel it all. And can I honestly say to myself, that's the energy? And then that's it. Then it's don't wait too long. Then it's don't rush, but then it's time.
It sounds like a pretty clear and powerful next best step forward.
Yeah.
When do you want to write that to yourself?
Today, this
Okay.
afternoon. Yeah.
Is there anything that could possibly get in your way?
Not in writing it, not in feeling it through. The part where I might choke is the expression to the world, to the person, to the people. That's the part where I might get scared and run back into my cave for a minute. I'm not worried that I won't do it. I'm just worried I might fumble for longer than I need to.
Is there any supports you could put into place to help you keep this promise to yourself?
I think I just want to say to the universe, show me the moment. And if you make the moment really clear, I promise I'll meet you there. I've been playing with that a little bit lately. I'll know I have to do something. I'll know I'll have to say something. And sometimes my brain says, well, if I know it, maybe it should be right now. I feel it inside. I know I need to express it. Maybe it should be right now. But I feel this sense of uncertainty. So I've been saying, show me the right moment. And I'll wait until I see it, make it really clear. And then the moment does come. I think that's what I would like to say. That's what I'll say to the universe. Show me the moment and I will come meet you.
Okay. What are you walking away with from this conversation?
You know that quote, everything you want is on the other side of fear? I friggin' hate that quote. I hate it. I've always hated it. And there's some moments where I realize how true it is. Sometimes never is a crazy word, but I don't think I've ever had a deep, powerful transformation without walking through so much fear. I feel that here, that this is a really important thing for me. This is a really important transformation for me. Me stepping in and showing up for myself this way and speaking for my heart this way represents a transformation of it's really about of who I'm being for myself. That's the heart of what this is. There's circumstances around it that have themes, but the most important thing about this is who do I want to be? Who do I want to be in this life? And I think I've learned how to speak for myself and be a stand for myself and honor my heart in lots of places. But obviously there's these little dark corners that I'm finding. This little corner here. I've left the scariest corners till the end. I've done all the other places. I've left the scariest corners to the end. But this is who I want to be. And so this feels like such a powerful portal. It feels like such an incredibly powerful transformation, like a full phoenix moment, like the old phoenix, like falling, burning into the ashes and a new one emerging. That's a threshold here for who I'm being for myself. And it's so worthwhile. I think I hate that quote because I don't want it to be true that you have to feel this much fear or pain or sadness or anger. I don't want it to be true. I never want it to be true. And I often find examples to prove why that's not true. And in a certain light, maybe it's not always true, but I'm coming to a moment where it is really true here. Everything I want is on the other side of this fear. It's just so clear, it's undeniable. I also hate the quote. It's not even really a quote when people say, bravery isn't not having fear, it's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I hate that. I hate it. I don't want to have to walk forward in fear. I don't want to be brave and resilient and move forward in fear. I often very much don't want to. And I still feel the part of me that doesn't want to have to do that right now. Those other parts of me in the background, I don't want that to be true. And yet it is. And in this moment, these really annoying cliche quotes, truths, they're so unavoidably true. Yeah, maybe there's some correlation between the resistance I have of the quotes and the part of me that's resisting the facing of these things. But I'm walking away with more of I'm scared of the path forward, but I see it. I'm not wondering, what do I do? How do I do it? It's still scary even when it's clear. But there's this sense of I'll be able to put one foot in front of the other on a very clear path. Even though there's so much I can't control, I feel sure about my footsteps.
Well, that was pretty magical to witness.
Do you have any thoughts that you want to share with me? I'm asking you to take your coach hat off now and come back into...
I'm going to take my coach hat off. My thoughts are holding that space for you with my coaching hat on and witnessing you and not trying to give you answers or give you solutions or tell you about the time that I experienced this and this is what I did. This is what you should do. Like, I'm always so blown away when I take a coaching stance. I'm always so blown away at the wisdom inside of that human. And as I was listening to you express yourself and paint the picture of your internal world and the tenderness of what your heart had to say, dancing in the tension of the fear of that level of vulnerability, your ability to go there within yourself and name those things, see those things, be with those things. Like, you named it, you felt it, and then you so beautifully shifted it and like anchored into your deepest knowing of what is next, like what is right and true, and then what is next for you. It's just so beautiful to witness, because witnessing you do that reminds me of my ability to do that for myself. We all have this like innate ability to heal ourselves, to access that inner teacher that we all got to witness inside of you step forward, and that part of us knows what to do next. And had we not kind of held space for all your emotions to surface, we could have easily slipped into like brainstorm mode. Okay, like, what are you going to say? How are you going to say it? When are you going to say it? You know, like, we could have easily slipped into that and talked about, you know, I had all sorts of ideas of what I wanted to talk about in this session or in this conversation. But like, holding space for your emotions, like, none of that felt relevant or mattered. And what I'm also just like deeply walking away with, it's a reminder for me every time. It's very selfish, but every time I hold space for someone else's truth to emerge in conversation like that, it returns me home to mine. And so I was just equally enriched by that conversation. So thanks for sharing it.
Oh, it's funny for you to say thank you to me. Gosh, I feel so lucky. It's funny, when we were talking this morning, trying to decide what to talk about, we could have gone other directions. And now it feels silly knowing that this was sitting inside me. You know, you can imagine the amount of space this is taking up in my mind and my body and my heart. And I think about what it would have been like to push this over here and try to step fully into another conversation. Oh my gosh, I am so grateful for this space you gave me, and like at the perfect time. It's more than that, but what I'm really struck with is how much of my past life I've spent trying to function with this size of a ball of a boulder inside and peeking my head and being like, okay, but I'm gonna do this thing over here. It's so exhausting to be resisting what's really present and needs to be explored and is emerging. I think it's so rare that people get to be, I don't want to say it's rare, but maybe it is. I don't know. I don't want to color everyone else's world, but it feels rare that people get to be in a situation, in any sort of relationship, in work or even with friends, that whatever the agenda was is released for what's real and alive and living and breathing and being felt, to come forward and be looked at with so much care. I think this is one of the ways I'm the richest. You know, it's just like, wow, I'm so rich in this way. How lucky am I that we just got to do this? How lucky am I that you just held the space for me? And now that I've gotten a taste for this, I can't imagine going back to live regular life before I knew what this was. Trying to function and suppress and not that you have to be able to go to your job. Different people have different jobs, right? But to not have somewhere you can go, a person you can go in your life and be able to take off your mask and your shell and share with someone else who you really are and what you're really feeling and what you're really scared of in that moment. That feels so essential now. It feels essential to my survival and living and breathing. And I'm so lucky And so many people don't have that. And I feel so lucky.
Me too.
I feel like I can breathe better now. There's more room like in my chest for my lungs to expand. I'm breathing again better.
That's the power of the name it, feel it, shift it process, right? It's like at the beginning of our session, you felt this like constriction and you were able to name like multiple areas in your body where you were feeling it. And by going inward, naming it, getting to the root of it, getting to the heart of it, allowing that to come forward, fully feeling it, expressing it, allowing yourself to feel those emotions, you were moving that energy out of your body. And then we get to the shift it moment where, in this scenario, your heart spoke loudly and clearly. There was no wisdom that I handed you. There was no way that I told you to go, or everything came from inside of you. And that's like the part of coaching that I love the most, is that wisdom comes from inside that human. And that's the most powerful way to generate true and aligned action or steps forward, is from that place of awareness. And like that was so clear inside of you. Once we go through name it, feel it, shift it, something literally physically shifts inside your body. You feel lighter, more spacious, whatever the sensations or the emotions might be. And that's when you're back in your state of alignment and you're seeing clearly. Like we want to carve our path forward from that state, Anything else, action planning, strategizing, fixing from any other state, it's inefficient. It's truly a gigantic waste of energy. It feels counterintuitive when you're in a situation or when something's up, or when you're feeling emotions, or like you feel a sense of urgency to respond to something or do something. It feels almost counterintuitive to slow everything down, go within, feel your emotions, name it, feel it, shift it, move through it. But it's like anything else, and you're operating from your rebel mind or your guard. And when we make choices and decisions and actions from the seat of our guard or rebel mind, we are on the detoured route of our life. Like we're on the hard path. And there's such a clear, direct, accessible path home to ourselves. It's through us. It's inside of us. And as much as I held space for you there, you did most of the work in that session, Michelle, because you are so adept at doing the name it, feel it, shift it process. Like your body literally wanted to move through those 3 stages, like effortlessly and naturally. And I just had to ask the right questions and hold the right space for you to express it out loud. But it's how our bodies want to heal, like want to come home to ourselves, want to move the energy out, so that we can see the path forward clearly and move forward, not without fear, like you mentioned, but move forward one solid step in front of the other. And that's how the path unfolds. When we can feel that sense of alignment, we are on our truest path. And that's the path in alignment with who we really are. That's also the path that is leading us to where it is we want to go, and who it is that we're becoming, and what it is we most deeply yearn for. Like there's no other way. Because I'm not inside of something right now, witnessing you. I'm like, oh, it's so clear. I respect your fear. And it would be almost dismissive of me to say, Michelle, you're going to be fine. Just have the conversation. It's all going to be good. Like to me, that would just be dismissive of the actual experience this holds for you and the transformation this holds for you. But from where I sit witnessing you, I've got this like the whole time holding space for you. I have this like joy inside of my being, because I'm witnessing a pattern being broken right now. I'm going to get emotional, but I'm witnessing you carve a new path based on past experience and based on what I just most deeply believe in. I know what happens when we choose the path of alignment. Magical things are on the other side of that. So it's really easy for me to sit here and say like, oh God, Michelle, you are on the right path. This is the right step, but it's what I feel. And just feeling that energy for you, I feel it for me too. Different contexts, different stories, different fears, but it's a reminder for me too that alignment first, and then like bravely, courageously, one next best step at a time. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. To learn more about the Mind Rebel Academy, our coach and leadership trainings, as well as our self-development programs, please visit us at www.themindrebel.com.